A trans woman's identity is targeted mid-flight, and when the pressure mounts, she reveals something that stuns the entire cabin. Let us know in the comments section below, what would you have done if you witnessed this unfold in real life? It began with a sight. Not the kind that lasts a second, not the kind you can brush off as paranoia, no. This was intentional, lingering, purposeful. The kind that says, "You don't belong here, even though your ticket says otherwise." Madeline Walker, known as Maddie to friends and Special Agent Walker to anyone in an interrogation room, felt it the moment she stepped into the first-class cabin. Her heels clicked soft but steady against the aisle as she moved toward seat 2A. She adjusted the cuffs of her tailored navy blazer, brushing a wrinkle from her black slacks, spine straight as a line of code. Maddie had learned a long time ago that presentation mattered, not just because she was a federal agent, but because she was a trans woman in America. She passed a man who nodded politely. Another offered a quick smile, but Patricia Cartwright didn't smile. She scowled. Maddie clocked it instantly, a blonde bob tucked into a pearl-collared cardigan. The kind of woman who called the manager when the salad came with croutons she didn't ask for. The kind who looked at Maddie's soft makeup, sculpted cheekbones, and instantly decided she was one of those. "Excuse me," Maddie said, sliding into her seat beside the window. Patricia scooted back stiffly as if touched by something unclean. Maddie bit the inside of her cheek. Years of training had taught her how to de-escalate hostage situations, disarm volatile suspects, and navigate male-dominated rooms without flinching. But nothing ever quite prepared her for this kind of violence. The quiet kind. The kind that shows up in body language, in breath held a second too long, in disgust thinly veiled as discomfort. She adjusted her seatbelt and gave a slight nod toward Patricia. No response. "Heading to D.C. for business," Maddie offered. Patricia blinked, then gave a tight smile. "Vacation." Her tone was clipped. "You?" "Work," Maddie replied, and then, because she was done playing the shrinking violet card, she added, "I'm with the FBI." Patricia turned slowly. Her eyes scanned Maddie's face, then her chest, her throat. It wasn't curiosity. It was inventory. "You're in the what?" Maddie met her gaze. "The Federal Bureau of Investigation." There was a pause. One of those ugly, pregnant silences that carries 100 assumptions in its belly. "Oh," Patricia said, blinking. "Well, that's surprising." Maddie didn't blink. "Why's that?" Patricia looked ahead. "No reason." "Liar." The flight attendant, Jordan, a tall, mixed-race man with dimples and weary eyes, approached with a tray of orange juice and water. "Good morning, ladies. Can I offer you a drink before takeoff?" Patricia straightened, flashing a bright smile that made her lipstick look too red. "Yes, water for me," she gestured to Maddie with a stiff nod. "And I think she'll want the orange juice." "I'll have the water," Maddie said firmly, ignoring the subtle jab. Jordan's smile flickered. He handed over the glasses without comment. Maddie had hoped that was the end of it. It wasn't. 5 minutes later, just as the cabin door sealed and the captain's voice crackled overhead, Patricia pressed the call button. The light above their row blinked on like a warning. Jordan returned. "Yes, ma'am?" "I'm sorry," Patricia said with a sweet, faux apologetic voice, "but I'm not comfortable sitting next to him." Maddie blinked. Jordan's eyes flicked from Patricia to Maddie. "I'm sorry?" Patricia leaned closer, as if sharing a secret she thought Jordan would agree with. "Him. This man. I just don't feel safe. I don't know what his intentions are." Jordan looked at Maddie. Maddie's voice was calm but firm. "Ma'am, I'm not a man, and I'm sitting in the seat printed on my ticket." Patricia huffed. "It's not about that. It's just, I don't think it's appropriate, you know, with children on the flight and all." "There are no children in first class," Maddie said without looking at her. Her voice was steel, wrapped in velvet. Jordan cleared his throat. Ma'am, this passenger is in the correct seat, and we don't discriminate based on gender identity. If you're uncomfortable, I can ask if there's another seat available for you." Patricia's mouth snapped shut. Her eyes darted around, realizing that others were now watching. Maddie caught a businessman 2 rows up lean slightly sideways, pretending to read the safety manual, while clearly eavesdropping. "I'll stay here," Patricia muttered. Maddie turned to the window. But the ache was back in her chest, that slow burn of shame and rage that no badge, no training, no amount of passing could ever fully erase. It wasn't about whether or not Patricia thought she looked like a woman. It was about the assumption that she wasn't enough of one, that her presence was dangerous, inappropriate, offensive. She reached into her carry-on and pulled out a slim leather folder. Inside was a sealed case file and her credentials. She didn't flash them, not yet, but she placed them in her lap like armor. Patricia crossed her arms tightly. The plane began to taxi. Outside the window, the Texas sun beat down on the tarmac, hot and sharp. Maddie stared ahead, breathing slowly. She'd dealt with men who'd tried to kill her. She'd fought off cartel members in hideouts and walked undercover into white supremacist biker bars. But somehow, this stung more, because this was supposed to be safe. The plane lifted. The city shrank. And Patricia Cartwright had no idea who she was sitting next to. Not yet. The seatbelt sign dinged off and the hush of ascent turned into the gentle rustle of movement. Flight attendants unbuckled and began gliding down the aisle with practiced grace. Overhead, the soft hum of the engines blanketed the awkward tension between seats 2A and 2B like thin hotel sheets. Just enough to cover it, but not enough to make anyone comfortable. Maddie folded her arms. She could feel Patricia's eyes flick toward her every few minutes, as if hoping she'd vanish. But Maddie had no intention of disappearing. She had spent too many years being invisible. Growing up in a small Nebraska town, Maddie had learned young to blend in. As a trans girl trapped in a boy's world, she became a master of silence, of small movements, of knowing when to speak and when to vanish. By the time she reached college, she had perfected the art of being unmemorable. But that wasn't who she was anymore. 38 years old, fully transitioned, with a federal badge and a record that spoke louder than any insult hurled on a plane. She didn't owe Patricia Cartwright anything. Still, as the cart rolled closer and Jordan returned with his practiced smile, Maddie straightened her spine. Always polite. Always composed. "Can I get you anything, Agent Walker?" he asked in a low voice, just for her ears. "We have cranberry juice, sparkling water, or I could check for ginger ale." She blinked at him, caught off guard. "You remembered." He smiled faintly. "I remember passengers who get harassed before takeoff. Cranberry with ice, right?" "That'd be great," she said, and gave him a real smile this time. "Thanks, Jordan. You got it." He moved away. Patricia didn't speak. Instead, she turned her body slightly toward the aisle, like Maddie was radiating something she didn't want to catch. Maddie could almost laugh, if she weren't used to it. The cold shoulder, the subtle inching away, like transness was contagious. She reached for her bag again and flipped open the leather folder. Case files, photos, dossiers. Her assignment in D.C. wasn't public yet, but it was personal. A domestic terrorism case, militia group with ties to anti-trans rhetoric. She'd fought like hell to be assigned, not because she needed to prove anything, she was past that, but because someone needed to represent girls like her, the ones who didn't get justice, the ones left out of the headlines. She flipped through the files slowly, taking in the faces, the names, the plans. Her job mattered, and that gave her peace. Suddenly, Patricia huffed beside her, a small, pointed breath. Maddie glanced sideways. "Do you mind?" Patricia said, voice icy. "I don't want to see any of that violence. It's disturbing." Maddie tilted her head. "You're looking into my lap." "I'm trying not to." Patricia snapped. "But your little FBI charade is taking up half the armrest." Maddie didn't answer at first. Then, calmly, she said, "I'm not playing dress-up. This is my job." Patricia scoffed. "I find that very hard to believe." "Wait, you know why?" Maddie let the silence sit for a beat. Then she closed the folder, placed it gently into her bag, and turned fully toward Patricia. "No, I don't," she said quietly. "Tell me why." Patricia stiffened. "You're a man in a woman's costume playing law enforcement. That's why." Maddie blinked once, then twice, and then she exhaled. "You know what's funny?" she said, voice low. "I used to believe women like you were the real threat, but you're not. You're just background noise." Patricia turned red. "Excuse me?" "You don't scare me," Maddie said. "Not anymore." Patricia stared, mouth parted in disbelief. "Is this how the FBI trains their agents to talk to civilians?" Maddie smiled. "No, but I'm off duty, so let me put it in simpler terms. I don't owe you comfort." Jordan returned just in time with the cranberry juice, placing it delicately on Maddie's tray table without saying a word, but his eyes lingered for a moment, kind, soft, and Maddie nodded once in thanks. Patricia grabbed her napkin and dabbed furiously at the corners of her mouth, like Maddie's words had physically spilled something on her. The man across the aisle leaned slightly over. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, speaking to Patricia, "but maybe it's you who should be moved, not her." Patricia whirled. "What did you just say?" "You heard me. You people always think you can gang up." "You people?" he asked, raising a brow. "Lady, she's sitting here drinking juice and reading a file. You're the one pushing drama like it's on sale." A small ripple of chuckles from other passengers. Maddie didn't join in. She stared at her cup, watching the ice float. Her heart pounded. Not from fear, but from the surrealness of it. How many times had she sat silently through moments like these, endured them? Now people were speaking for her. And still, she didn't want to become a spectacle. She reached up and pressed the call button again. Jordan returned, concern in his eyes. "Yes?" Maddie's voice was calm, steady. "Is the pilot available? I need to make a quick ID verification with the flight deck. I can meet them quietly." Jordan paused. "Of course." His eyes flicked to Patricia, then back to Maddie. "Give me a second." Maddie nodded and slowly took her badge wallet out from the bag. She didn't open it. Not yet. When Jordan returned, he gestured politely. "Right this way." Maddie stood, smoothing her blazer, then turned briefly toward Patricia. "No hard feelings," she said, expression neutral. "You're not the first person to underestimate a trans woman, but you might be the first who gets to do it face-to-face with a federal agent." Then she walked away, calm and deliberate, as Patricia stared after her, mouth slightly open. A quiet murmur followed Maddie down the aisle. Not laughter, not outrage, just quiet awe. And somewhere deep in her chest, Maddie felt a spark of something she hadn't in a while. Not anger, not fear, pride, not just because she was trans, but because she'd stopped shrinking to make room for other people's ignorance. The cockpit door clicked shut behind her. Maddie stood just inside the flight deck, the dim light from the control panels flickering across her face. Captain Michelle Rodriguez, a woman in her early 50s with a crisp bun and sharper eyes, turned from her seat and studied her. "You're the one in 2A, she said flatly, though not unkindly. "Yes, ma'am," Maddie replied, flipping open her badge wallet and holding it up without a word. Captain Rodriguez leaned forward, inspecting it. The seal glimmered. The ID photo, a serious but composed image of Maddie, her brown hair pinned up, her makeup minimal, stared back at them. "Special Agent Madeline Grace Walker," the captain read aloud. FBI, currently assigned to DC Counterterrorism Division. Her eyes moved back to Maddie. You good? Maddie gave a single nod. I am. I just didn't want to escalate anything out there unnecessarily. She's volatile. You handled her? The captain said, calmly. Thank you. Rodriguez gestured toward the jump seat. Want to cool off for a sec before heading back? Maddie hesitated, then lowered herself into the fold-down seat. She exhaled, let her head tip back. The gentle hum of altitude pressed around them like a blanket. Quiet, contained, safe. Rodriguez turned her attention back to the instruments. People like her, she said after a moment, they only learn when the world tells them to shut up, and even then, sometimes they don't. Maddie let out a short, quiet laugh. She looked at me like I was a predator, like just existing beside her was an act of aggression. People love their fear, Rodriguez said. They cradle it like it's truth. There was a long pause. I've had worse, Maddie admitted, but something about today hit different. Maybe because I've worked so hard to be this, not just passable, not just quiet, but excellent. I earned that seat, that ticket, that uniform, and none of it mattered to her. It mattered to me, Rodriguez said, not looking away from the sky ahead, and to your seatmate across the aisle, and your flight attendant. You're not invisible, not here. Maddie felt her throat tighten unexpectedly. She nodded, swallowing. Then she stood. I should go back. If I sit in here any longer, she'll think I got removed. Rodriguez smirked. Can't let the dragon win. Maddie grinned for real this time. Exactly. She opened the door and stepped out. The silence of the cockpit traded instantly for the buzz of human tension. Every head in first class turned. All eyes on her. She didn't flinch. She walked slowly, chin high, hands calm. She returned to 2A. Patricia Cartwright had her arms folded and eyes aimed directly at the window, as if she could will herself out of existence. As Maddie sat back down, the man across the aisle gave a quiet, respectful nod. You all right? He asked gently. Maddie smiled. I'm fine. Thanks. Name's Reggie, he said, offering a hand. I'm with Glad. I clocked the moment that woman got uncomfortable. Knew it wasn't about comfort. Maddie took his hand. Maddie, FBI. He let out a low whistle. Well, damn. No wonder you kept your cool. Maddie leaned back, feeling some of the weight slide off her chest. I'm just tired of fighting, she said, even the quiet battles. Especially those. Reggie nodded. I get that. Behind them, whispers were buzzing now, curious passengers sharing low commentary. Then came a sudden ping from the PA system. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Rodriguez's voice came through, smooth and unshaken. Just a brief announcement. We'd like to thank everyone for your cooperation and understanding as we work to maintain a respectful environment on board. In case there's any confusion, all passengers in their assigned seats are here because they have every right to be here. If you feel otherwise, I recommend you review your boarding pass or your value. Silence. Then a soft smattering of claps. First one, then a few more. Patricia's jaw clenched so tightly it looked like it might snap. Maddie didn't join the applause. She just sipped her cranberry juice and stared straight ahead. But her heart? It was soaring. She was reminded again why she stayed in the fight. Why even after a decade of dodging hate in bathrooms, getting stared down in TSA lines, and feeling the judgment burn holes into her back, she didn't run, didn't quit, didn't hide. She hadn't survived just to survive. She was here to exist loudly. The hum of the plane settled again into a quiet lull. The cart rolled by and Jordan caught Maddie's eye, slipping her a small packet of cookies with a wink. On the house agent. Thanks, she murmured, lips twitching with amusement. Just as she was about to tuck the cookies away, her phone buzzed in her blazer. It was a secure notification. Encrypted. Urgent. She opened it. A new update from DC Counterterrorism Unit. Her brow furrowed. A possible bomb threat targeting the National Transvisibility Conference, scheduled to take place the day after tomorrow. Hundreds of LGBTQ+ attendees, many already receiving threats. Maddie stared at the screen. Patricia shifted beside her, arms still rigid, lips tight. Maddie didn't look at her. Not yet. She typed back quickly. Confirmed. Will debrief in person. Currently en route. She turned the screen off and closed her eyes for a second. This flight wasn't the end of anything. It was just the beginning, and she would be ready. Ready to be seen, ready to be heard. And when she landed in D.C., so help anyone who tried to hurt her community again. The seatbelt light blinked on again, and the plane began its subtle descent through patches of thin golden clouds. Maddie felt the change in altitude, not just in her ears, but in the cabin itself. The air had shifted, denser, tense. The kind of atmosphere where everyone pretends to be reading, but every ear is tuned to what might happen next. Patricia hadn't said a word since Maddie returned. She hadn't even looked her way, but the tension radiating off her was unmistakable, like a pot on the stove set to boil, lid rattling louder with every passing second. Maddie could feel eyes still sneaking glances from across the aisle, but she kept her posture relaxed, chin slightly lifted. It wasn't performative, it was survival. Every movement Maddie made in public had always been carefully considered from the day she stepped into her true self. Transitioning had never been just a medical journey. It had been a negotiation with the world, one glance at a time. She tapped her fingers on the armrest, her mind not on Patricia anymore, but on the update from headquarters. The potential bomb threat wasn't some vague internet post. It was a credible lead, the kind that made Maddie's gut coil into a knot. The Transvisibility Conference was more than just another event. It was a place where people like her could breathe, where being trans wasn't a risk, it was a celebration. And now someone wanted to take that away. Her thumb hovered over her phone. Maddie wanted to contact Director Brooks immediately, but she was still in the air. Protocol mattered, even when adrenaline was building like a tidal wave in her chest. She glanced out the window. The edge of Virginia was now visible beneath them. Rolling green hills, blurred highways, clusters of neighborhoods tucked into the landscape like secrets. In less than an hour, she'd be in the field again. The thought gave her comfort. Focus. A low cough interrupted her thoughts. Maddie turned slowly. Patricia's jaw worked before she spoke. Her voice was tight, clipped, as if forced through a pinhole of self-control. I didn't mean for it to go that far. Maddie blinked once. Patricia shifted in her seat. Her hands, which had been folded like knives in her lap, now fidgeted with the hem of her blouse. I didn't feel comfortable at first, she muttered. And I panicked. Maddie didn't reply. Not yet. I'm from a small town, Patricia went on. South Carolina. We didn't grow up around people like you. Maddie kept her gaze steady. People like me. Patricia faltered, then tried again. I mean, trans. I didn't know what to do. It caught me off guard. Maddie tilted her head. And when something catches you off guard, your first instinct is to try and have it removed? Patricia's mouth opened, then closed. It's easier, Maddie continued, voice soft but firm, when we're out of sight, right? You don't have to confront what it means to see someone like me living fully, existing openly. I didn't think you'd be like this, Patricia said quietly. Normal. I thought you'd be angry. Or flamboyant. Or, I don't know. You thought I'd be a stereotype. Yes. Maddie took a breath. Her voice remained calm, but her heart was pounding. I'm a trans woman, Patricia. I've been through therapy, hormone treatment, discrimination, death threats, workplace bias, and still made it into federal law enforcement. I've had to prove myself twice as hard for half the recognition. I've walked into bathrooms where people glared at me like I was some kind of monster. I've walked down sidewalks where parents pulled their children closer. Patricia swallowed. I'm not your enemy, Maddie said. And I'm not your curiosity. Patricia nodded slowly. Do you? Maddie asked. Because knowing means you don't just tolerate me. You understand I have the right to be here, without asking for permission, without justifying my gender, without needing to pass some invisible test of acceptability. There was a long silence. Patricia blinked down at her lap. Her voice, when it returned, was small. My daughter's 11, she said. She's been asking questions about gender, about her body. I think she might be, I don't know, different. Maddie didn't expect that. She asked me last month, Patricia continued, if she had to be a girl forever, if she could decide later. Maddie's expression softened. Just a little. And what did you say? She asked. I told her it was just a phase, that she was confused. I panicked. Maddie looked at her, really looked at her. And now, I don't know what I'd say if she asked again. Maddie reached into her inner blazer pocket and pulled out a business card. She held it out. Patricia hesitated before taking it. My agency has resources. Therapists. Advocates. Call that number, not for you, for her. Patricia nodded. Thank you. Maddie turned back toward the window, the clouds now broken into scattered wisps. Below, the Potomac shimmered in the sunlight. The intercom crackled. Jordan's voice echoed through the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, we've begun our descent into Washington, D.C. Please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts. Flight crew, prepare the cabin. The man across the aisle, Reggie, gave Maddie a thumbs up. Hey, he whispered, you just changed a life. Maddie didn't look over, but a faint smile touched the corner of her mouth. Not every battle needed a badge or a gun. Sometimes, just sitting in your truth long enough made the world shift on its axis. The plane dipped lower, the city sprawling into view, rooftops glinting, monuments standing tall. And Maddie? She didn't just see a city waiting for her. She saw a fight worth continuing, a community worth protecting, and a world slowly learning to see her not as a threat, but as exactly who she is. The wheels touched down with a soft jolt, and the cabin filled with the dull roar of reverse thrusters. Maddie's hand braced against the seat in front of her, but her heart remained steady. No adrenaline, no nerves, just a calm that came from years of managing crisis under pressure, first as a trans woman navigating a hostile world, and now as a federal agent responsible for protecting it. She could feel Patricia watching her again, though this time it wasn't the same sharp-edged judgment. It was softer, uncertain, like someone looking at a word they'd always mispronounced and realizing it had meant something different all along. The seatbelt sign dinged off. Passengers stood. The shuffle began. Overhead bins opened, bags were yanked down in a frenzy, and the small orchestra of travel resumed its usual clatter. Maddie didn't rush. Instead, she reached for her carry-on, slid the folder back inside carefully, then pulled her phone from her blazer to scan the new batch of notifications. 2 texts from Director Brooks. Intel confirmed. Threat is viable. Immediate meeting upon arrival. Need you at Quantico. Ground team already deployed. Maddie typed back. Landing now. En route in 30. As she tucked her phone away, a quiet voice surprised her. Lieutenant Walker. Patricia stood awkwardly beside her seat, hands gripping her designer tote like a lifeline. I just wanted to say, she glanced at the floor. I didn't know about what it meant to live like you do. I still don't. But I'm going to try. Maddie gave her a long look. She didn't smile. But she nodded. "That's a start," she said, and stepped into the aisle. Reggie caught up to her as they walked off the plane together. "You heading straight into something?" he asked, eyeing the shift in her expression. Maddie gave a non-committal shrug. "Always." "You good?" "Yeah," she glanced sideways. "You?" Reggie grinned. "Better. Honestly, watching you handle that woman like a Jedi, whole thing felt redemptive." They passed through the jet bridge and into the terminal, where sunlight poured through tall windows and a row of screens showed the latest headlines, one of which was already beginning to buzz with familiar names. Viral video, trans FBI agent allegedly harassed by fellow passenger mid-flight. Maddie's stomach flipped. Someone had recorded it. She followed Reggie's eyes. Same screen. Same headline. "Well," he murmured, "looks like your day just got more interesting." She pulled out her phone again. More notifications, dozens now. Twitter tags, Instagram clips, comments, screenshots, a blurry video of her calmly standing while Patricia hissed at the flight attendant. And then, the reveal. Her badge. Her name. Madeline Grace Walker. FBI. And trans. "Oh, God," she muttered. Reggie put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "It's not a bad thing. Not the way this is spreading. People are calling you a hero, a role model. That's not what I wanted." "No one wants to be outed by an iPhone," he said. "But you didn't flinch. You stood your ground. And now people are watching." She didn't answer. Instead, she kept walking, her mind already ahead of her feet. She passed a group of teenage girls near the Starbucks. One of them looked up from her phone, gasped, and whispered something to her friend. The second girl looked up too and smiled. It wasn't just recognition. It was awe. It was hope. Maddie felt her chest tighten again, but this time it wasn't dread. She exited the gate area, and just before the main security hall, she saw a man in a charcoal suit holding a small sign. "Walk." She approached. "Agent Carter," he said briskly, lowering the sign. "I'm your ride. Quantico's waiting." They walked briskly through the crowd, past the terminal shops and kiosks, as Carter filled her in on the details. Perimeter sweep already underway, tech team combing through online threats. So far, 2 credible sources, one linked to a known hate group based in Virginia. "Do we have names?" "We're close, but we need your profile input on the suspect list. No one knows these kinds of groups like you." Maddie nodded. Her brain shifted into work mode. Pull all online hate forums that spiked activity around the conference announcement. Focus on the ones targeting trans women specifically. Filter for military background, bomb-making knowledge, and any red flag purchases over the last 60 days. Carter glanced at her, impressed. "Already halfway there. But we'll need your instinct." Maddie didn't smile, didn't nod. She just kept walking. Her heels clicked across the tile. Her mind calculated. But under all that, a quiet whisper lingered in the back of her thoughts. They know now. The world. Her identity. Her face. It wasn't just a seat on a plane anymore. It was a moment. A crack in the surface of silence. And what followed it would not be forgotten. As they exited through the security doors and stepped into the midday sun, she took a breath. She wasn't just fighting for justice. She was fighting for visibility. And there was no badge, no viral headline, no hateful slur that would ever make her shrink again. The briefing room at Quantico buzzed with the low hum of tension. Agents moved like clockwork, swapping files, updating digital feeds, cross-referencing chatter. A large projection screen displayed the conference map, blinking red dots marking key security choke points. Maddie stood near the front, arms folded, eyes scanning every detail. She hadn't sat since she arrived. The adrenaline wouldn't let her. Not yet. Not until she knew every trans life at that conference would be safe. Behind her, Director Alan Brooks approached with a tablet in hand, and a look that said he was ready for answers. "We've narrowed the threat to 3 possible suspects," he said. all with known militia affiliations, 2 with bomb-making priors. Maddie turned slightly. "Let me see their files." He handed the tablet over. She scrolled quickly, stopping on a familiar face. Long, narrow jaw, pale eyes like cold ash. Her stomach clenched. "This one," she said, tapping the screen. "Daniel Reese. I testified against one of his known associates 2 years ago. He has motive." Brooks nodded. "We've already sent a field team to check his last known residence, but he's off-grid. Burner phone pinged just south of the D.C. border this morning." Maddie stared at the blinking marker. "He's watching, scouting, probably still deciding if he's going through with it." "We're posting units at all venue entrances," Brooks said, "but we could use your eyes on site. No one knows how these people operate better than you." She didn't hesitate. "Then I'll be there." As she turned to leave, Brooks called after her. "Walker." She stopped. "You good?" he asked, not as her boss, as a man who knew exactly what it meant to wear both a badge and a target. Maddie exhaled. "I'm fine." He gave a small nod. "After this is over, we should talk about putting you on permanent task force leadership. This field needs your voice, especially now." She blinked. "Even after the flight, the press." He shrugged, if anything, because of it. Maddie gave the smallest smile she'd allowed herself all day. "Then I'll earn it." She exited the building without another word, sliding into the back seat of the black SUV waiting at the curb. The visibility conference was already alive with color by the time she arrived. Rainbow banners waved in the wind. Booths lined the green space outside the community center. Trans teens laughed near the merch tables, taking selfies. A group of non-binary performers practiced spoken word near the small outdoor stage. It was joy, it was noise, it was life, and Maddie felt it in her bones. She tightened her blazer and stepped out of the SUV, immediately greeted by the head of security, Officer Green, a tall black woman with a radio clipped to her belt. "Agent Walker," she said, extending a hand. "Heard about you. You're a bit of a legend around here already." Maddie chuckled, taking her hand. "Was hoping for less fame and more results today." "Understood. We've secured the perimeter and added 2 checkpoints, but we're still vulnerable until we clear the main building. Let's move." They walked together, past performers, panelists, volunteers. Some people stared, recognizing Maddie from the viral video. A few smiled. One young trans boy whispered to his mom and pointed. Maddie caught it out of the corner of her eye. She kept her focus forward. Inside, officers swept the main conference hall. Sniffer dogs passed rows of folding chairs. Agents reviewed HVAC access points and exit routes. Maddie walked the space like she was memorizing it. And then her phone buzzed. A security ping. Unauthorized vehicle approaching from the south lot. She froze. "Green, we've got movement." They turned on a dime, heading toward the lot at a fast pace. 2 more agents fell in behind them. The black pickup was older, no plates, tinted windows. It had just stopped near a dumpster behind the center. Suspiciously, not near public parking. As they approached, the engine revved. "Step out of the vehicle," Green shouted, hand on her weapon. The driver's door opened slowly, and there he was. Daniel Reese. Same eyes, same hate. He stepped out with hands visible, but the twitch in his jaw told Maddie everything. He wanted to run. Or worse, he didn't. "We've got eyes on you," Maddie called out. "Don't do anything stupid." But he didn't look at her. He looked through her. "You," he said, "the trans one from the plane. I've seen your face all over the news." Maddie didn't blink. "Then you know I'm not someone you want to test." He smiled, thin and ugly. "This ain't about you, sweetheart. It's about the sickness you people keep shoving into the world." Maddie stepped forward. "Put your hands on the hood, now." He reached down slowly, and then bolted. It happened in seconds. He turned, sprinting back behind the dumpster. Maddie chased without hesitation. Around the corner, he pulled something from his coat, a small device, clutched tight. Maddie raised her voice. "Drop it, now!" He hesitated. 2 more agents rounded the opposite end. He was cornered. And then, finally, he dropped it. Arms up, backup cuffed him within moments, dragging him to the ground. Maddie exhaled. Hard. The device was a trigger. Manual, sloppy wiring, but it could have worked. It could have hurt dozens. She stared down at it, heart pounding, and she thought of the kids outside. The smiling teens. The little boy who pointed at her with pride. She had stopped it, not just because of who she was, but because of what she was. 2 hours later, the sun was setting over the community lawn. Maddie stood near the edge of the crowd, watching a group of trans youth gather for a photo beneath the main banner, "Visibility is power." One of the kids spotted her. "Walker," he called, "can you be in the picture?" Maddie hesitated. But Reggie, somehow appearing from the crowd, nudged her gently. "Go. It's not about being seen. It's about seeing yourself in someone else." She stepped forward. The group parted to let her in. Smiles everywhere. The shutter clicked. And Maddie, standing in the middle of it all, badge in her coat, truth in her skin, finally let herself feel it. She wasn't a distraction. She wasn't a threat. She was a protector. A leader. A trans woman who refused to be erased. And this time, the world was watching, for all the right reasons.